Hi friends, I'm Anna Helman, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Today we are going to make 12 cards in a short amount of time. I know from my past videos that you love to see this type of video where I make a batch of cards and show you a lot of tips and tricks for how to make more cards and make them in a short period of time. We are going to use a bundle to make these that is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to share it with you and see these cards finished. So I hope you will watch along and then stick around for the end, and hope we'll chat about life, and hopefully I have something encouraging to offer you today. Let's get started. Here's that bundle I just mentioned that we're going to use to create these cards. Now, you can use the ideas and the patterns and things I'll be sharing. You can use these with products you have in your own collection, of course. But I wanted to share this with you quickly before we get started. It's the Changing Leaves stamp set. I absolutely love leaf stamps and wanted to share some ideas for using this one. It has a coordinating embossing folder and a coordinating die set that all work together. And I think you'll really be kind of amazed as you see how all of this works as we go through here. So what we are going to start with is a little bit of stamping. We're going to stamp with these leaf stamps. And I am going to use a special technique that I call, and a lot of people call, the baby wipe technique. So what I have done is I took a baby wipe, I folded it in half so it's 2 layers thick, and I used my ink refills to put drops of 3 different colors of ink onto this baby wipe. So the 3 colors I used are Cherry Cobbler, Cajun Craze, and Blackberry Bliss. I left a couple of little open spots over here so I could just show you how I added those colors until the whole thing was filled with the different colors. Now, you can ink the stamp. We are going to ink this very large, the stamps on this very large block with this as the ink pad. So get set up here so I can show you how this works. You can do what I'm doing and use a regular ink pad if you want to, but for whatever reason, this is one of my favorite things to do with leaf stamps because they are just so very pretty. So you could do this with a stamping platform if you have one. I decided just to get out the one large block and mount them this way. So I'll give it a good press. And here you can see those multicolors. Now, these do turn out lighter when you use the baby wipe technique than it will with a regular ink pad in a lot of cases. But I really like the irregularity that I get with this technique. So because we're making multiples, we are going to do this 4 times. Now, something that's extra fun about these cards I'm sharing with you today is we are making multiples, but we are going to end up with 3 different card designs, 3 totally different card designs. And they may all be a little bit different. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing and you want to make sure you get a really good stamp, like I have a few spots right here that aren't completely stamping, which I'm going to embrace the imperfections as kind of a rustic effect with these neat leaves. But if you want to make sure they stamp perfectly, grab a foam pad, like a Stampin' Pierce mat, and just put that underneath, and that's going to help you get all of those areas stamped really well. Okay, so these are our 4 that we are stamping the background on. Now, we are going to prepare 4 more with another method. And this is this beautiful leaf embossing folder. So I am going to grab 2 more of these. I love crumb cake with fall colors. This is my crumb cake cardstock. And I can stack too thick if you want to. When you're making multiples, a lot of times you can double layer the paper going through your cut and emboss machine to do multiples at one time. Now, you want to be really careful never to force anything through your machine if it feels like it doesn't want to go. Don't force it. We do not want to break our machines. But with these 3D embossing folders, I typically can put 2 pieces in, no problem. So here you can see, even with 2 thick, so the second one is not quite as detailed. Can you see the difference here? But we still get a really good impression on this one. And actually, if I want to, I can use the back side of this one, which was against the bottom side of the folder. That has a little bit more detail. So we can use either one there. Now, let's do that a second time because we will end up with 4 of these cards as well. And we can put these in a different spot. We'll get a different selection of leaves that way. Now, after these come out, we are going to do something with them. We could use them as is, but we're going to make it a little bit more exciting. We are going to use some blending brushes to add some ink over the top. Add some of those fall colors. So I'll bring my scrap paper back in here and let's do a little bit of ink blending. I have those same 3 colors I mentioned a minute ago. I have Blackberry Bliss, Cherry Cobbler, and Cajun Craze. And I am going to do this pretty quickly. I am not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we'll add a little bit of Blackberry Bliss to each one. We'll do this first. Now, as you're doing this, you want to make sure to use a very gentle touch. And like I said, always blot off your excess ink on some scrap paper before you get started. But use a very gentle touch. If you press too hard, you may end up with some spots in the background. And I'm trying to keep most of this color on those raised parts of the embossing. Sometimes swirling the opposite direction can help cover some of the, as you're swirling one way, it's going to catch on those raised edges. If you want to swirl the opposite way, it can catch on the other raised edges you're not getting the one direction. So let's add a little bit of Blackberry Bliss to this one. Now, if you're really trying to keep these quick and simple, like I said, just stick with that embossing. But this set is so pretty, and I knew that if I added some colors like this, they would just turn out amazing. So we're taking a bit of extra time to add some of these colors. So this is the Cajun Craze. We'll add a bit of this to each card front that we're starting here. The detail on this set is just so amazing. And I will mention this, so I'm using this for fall. We think of leaves as being for fall, but keep in mind that leaves can be for all year long. One thing I really like to do with tree and leaf sets is to use them throughout the year is to just switch up the colors. Now, if I was doing these in greens, that would be greens or browns. That would be a card that you could use all year. You could use that in the winter. Would be really nice for a thinking of you or a sympathy card. We can make them in pastel colors, and that's very springy. So you can really use this set throughout the year if it is one that you are interested in. So don't limit your thinking because I'm making these for fall. Don't limit your thinking that this is only a set to be used for fall. But I just had to use the fall colors. Fall is my favorite season. The leaves and the pumpkins and all of the fall things. So now I'm adding some cherry cobbler. And here I'll show you close up. Isn't that just beautiful? With the texture and the color, it's just amazing. Okay, so we'll add just a bit of cherry cobbler to this one, and we'll finish up our last one here. And then we will start to prepare the 4 card fronts for our last 4 cards. So we're gonna do that in another way. We stamped the first 4, we embossed this set, and then for the last set, we are going to combine this. This is my favorite part of this set. So we are going to combine this die with the embossing folder. So this is called a hybrid embossing folder. It works together with the folder and the dies. And for this one, we are going to cut each one of these out of the 3 different colors that we're using. So what I'm going to do is lay this die around the coordinating areas of the embossing folder. So when I lay this in the right spot, it is going to lock into place where it's just outlining those raised edges. Now I'm going to put a piece of cardstock over top, fold it shut, and we are going to run this through the machine. So I can do this the same way as the other one, and for this 3D embossing folder, I just use my specialty plate on top. Now, when you do this, I haven't tried putting 2 layers of paper inside, but I'm not sure I would feel comfortable with that because that die is inside of here, this is a little tighter fit. And like I said, I wouldn't want to force anything through the machine. So we have this piece that has those cutouts, but it has the leaves around the edge that we could use. And then let's take a look at these up close. So it embossed them and cut them out all at one time. Aren't these beautiful? So let's do that again with the other colors. We got our Blackberry Bliss ones finished. Now let's do the same thing with the Cajun Craze. Our last color we will do is that cherry cobbler. So you could do this with a lot of different colors if you want to. I'll mention some of my other favorite fall colors for leaves and fall projects. Crushed curry is a nice, crushed curry and wild wheat are some really beautiful deep yellows that are nice. Copper clay is one that I almost used in place of this Cajun Craze today, but I didn't. It's a little bit deeper color than the Cajun Craze. What else? What other colors? I think those pecan pie is a nice brown, crumb cake. There's a lot of different colors you can use for some nice fall cards. I do mention my cut and emboss machine every once in a while, but I love this cut and emboss machine. It does such a nice job of cutting and embossing evenly across the entire surface. It does a much better job than the one that I used to have, which is the one I used to have is a very common one on the market, and I had to use all the special tricks to get it to cut and emboss evenly over the surface. So it's really nice now that this one does the job for me and I don't have to use all those special tricks. Okay, now we are going to prep 2 more things quickly before we start to put all of these cards together. The first one is the card bases. So I've already folded some of these, but I thought I would mention sometimes in these videos I share that you can stack 2 layers of cardstock on top of each other to do your cutting and your scoring when you prepare your card bases. So you can take 2 full sheets of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, stack them on top, score them down the center, and then cut them in half the other direction, and you'll end up with 4 card bases. I actually, when I'm making cards, typically I do not score my cards ahead of time. I just line up the corners as I'm folding, line them up, give it a crease with my finger, and then I like to share this tip that I got from a friend. And so I haven't creased any of these or burnished them with my bone folder, but you can just stack them up when you're doing a lot of cards. Give it a nice good pinch, run your finger along there, and these actually lay pretty flat by themselves. But what I typically do over that whole stack is run that bone folder across just one time. But this saves so much time and not using that bone folder across each one of them, and is really good tip for making a lot of cards. So now let's pull out these things that we have prepared. Let's start with, we'll start with these stamped card fronts. And when I'm putting a lot of cards together, I like to flip out. A lot of times I'll do even more than this. Like if I was not recording this, I might even lay out 12 of these or 16 at one time. And you can lay them side by side. If I'm using tape, I do exactly what I'm doing right here. I lay them side by side so that I can run a strip, lift up, and keep going straight across. And I find that just little things like this really can help save a lot of time and make it easier. Now, if you don't want to use your tape, you can use some glue. Sometimes I think glue might even be a little bit faster when you're putting a lot of cards together. So if you prefer glue, you can try that. I am going to mix up the background colors on these, the card base colors. So we will get a nice assortment once we are done here. So here's these 4. We will add some greetings here in a few minutes, but aren't these coming together nicely? I think these stamps are just so pretty. Now let's pull in the 4 that we embossed and added the color with the blending brushes. We'll flip these over. Do the same thing with our tape. And pull in some more of these card bases. So I'm curious, I know we haven't finished them yet here, but as of right now, which ones of these do you think are going to be your favorite? Do you think the stamped ones, the embossed ones, or the ones that we are going to use those die cuts on? Which ones do you think you are going to like the best? You'll have to let me know in the comments. And after we get all the way finished, you can let me know. These are just amazing. Look at these. Okay, so we're not done. Let's keep going. And for these last ones, let's bring in all of those die cuts. So I have 3 leaves in each color. Here are the Blackberry Bliss ones. Let's grab the Cajun Craze. Now, just while I'm doing this, I'm looking at these again. So what are some fun ways that we could use these? Do you have any ideas? I would love for you to comment and let me know down below on those. One of my ideas is to cut around those embossed images that are left with scissors and use those individually. You could take one of these and lay different colors of leaves on top of it and pop these up with some foam dimensionals. There are lots and lots of ways that you could use those. Now I am going to put adhesive on the backs of these, I'll mention this before I start. So I'm going to use crumb cake background with these. I wanted to stick with the crumb cake theme. And since these are in all of our colors, I thought I would use crumb cake background here. But I am going to stick these on in various arrangements on these. But if you think any of your leaves are going to hang off the edge, you'll have to be careful about how you put your adhesive on. If you are going to keep the leaves fully on your card bases, then you don't really have to worry about that too much. So for this one, I am going to use some glue, and this will make it real quick and easy to just put a bit of this glue. I love this multi-purpose glue. You don't have to have much at all on there. You don't have to cover the whole surface. Just get a little bit on each of those leaves. And that should be plenty. So we'll get all of these ready, and then we can put our cards together pretty quickly with these. So I haven't decided if these are going to be vertical or horizontal cards, and maybe we'll have some of both. But let's just do some different fun arrangements with these leaves. I am planning on making 4 card bases out of these, so some of them I think will end up with 2. Some may end up with 3. And there's so many different ways we can arrange this. You can see I'm questioning how I should put them on, but no matter what we do, they're going to be pretty, I'm sure. So we'll put these 2 here, and on our 4th one, I wasn't paying much attention. We ended up with 3 of the same leaf left for this one, but that's okay. This one will just be a little bit different than the other ones. Okay, so we have all of our cards prepared with the main interest on the front. Now let's work on some greetings. And I have some strips of cardstock here. When I cut my mats for the fronts and the insides of my cards that measure 4 by 5 1/4 inches, I end up with these 1/2 inch strips left over. And I like to keep these. I actually have them organized. I had an extra silverware organizer for some unknown reason. So what I did, I put that silverware organizer in a drawer, and I keep these long strips laying in the different areas of that silverware organizer. So I decided I like these long, narrow greetings. This stamp set includes several of them, and I thought I would show you how I stamp multiples here. Stamp these to be able to cut apart and use for my greetings. I had this big block, and I was able to put 3 of the greetings on to fit all at one time, so I can stamp them all at once. So those are some in Cherry Cobbler. Let's stamp some in Blackberry Bliss. And then we can just cut these apart really quickly and easily with our scissors. I love to have die cut or punched greetings for my cards, but if you're making very many, that can really add, especially die cuts, can definitely add some time to how long it's going to take you to make those cards. So this is just a really quick and easy way to add a lot of greetings to your cards quickly. So last but not least, we'll stamp one of these strips with Cajun Craze. And it's working out that I can get 5 of the greetings to fit on each one of these. Okay, so let's cut these apart real quick, and then we will finish these cards. Now, I have a few little embellishments to add. I'll mention some ways to step these cards up if you think they're nice, but you would like them to be a little bit more detailed. I will give you some ideas for ways to step them up a little bit. I have cut some ribbons. I'll add ribbons to a few of them, so that's one way. You can step them up if you want to, or we'll talk about some other ways as well. So these are some nice greetings. I picked the ones out. The ones that fit on these strips were thank you, a little note to brighten your day, and you are amazing in every single way. So we will do 4 of each color, and that should be enough for these cards. I'm not sure how many I did of each color, but we'll just put a couple of dimensionals on the backs. And I like to share this tip, even though I don't always remember to do it myself. So this is my take your pick tool. I love it. It really helps me to put gems onto cards. That's my favorite thing to do with it, but without my fingers having to do it. But when I do a lot of dimensionals, this is another time I like to get it out. And what's cool about this is not only can I place the foam dimensional on to the card, I can actually remove that paper backing. So this one already pulled off. That one did pull off. I wasn't sure if it did. So I'll show you with this one. If you poke through that paper backing, and you have to press and lift a little bit, it will actually pull that off of there. And then you don't have to take those paper backing pieces off right away. You can just continue on, and sometimes these don't like to come off unless they have a little opening. So I'll pull this one off. That one's ready. And now these other ones, since I have a little opening there, these should come off easier. So I attach it, press and lift, and that paper backing came off with it. So we'll do this with a few more. I don't mention this a whole lot, but since we have a minute here to chat while I am doing this, I'll mention the opportunity. I know a lot of you really love Stampin' Up's products. We have some of the highest quality products. We stand behind them. If you ever have problems with anything at all, Stampin' Up will take care of it, and I'm always here to help. What's great is I'm here to help, and so is customer support. We have the absolute best customer support. But one of the other things is there's the chance to sign up and get a discount on your own products if you want to. I signed up originally in this craft industry because I loved the products and I wanted a discount on them. I wanted to save some money. And we have a lot of people who sign up just to get a discount on their own products. I do have a team of people under me that we just love to stamp. A lot of us have a lot of craft supplies in our house. We are collectors of the crafty things, and yeah, we get together once a month and we have a Zoom. We talk about the happenings, what's going on, and catch up with each other, and we always make a craft project. And then once every 3 months we have what I call a quarterly craft night, and we actually make 4 different projects together, which was fun. I always send out the materials list ahead of time, so anybody who wants to craft along with us can. And then I record it and send it out afterwards, so anybody who can't join in live or anybody who wants to watch it back and make those craft projects later, they can do that. So just thought I would mention that. It's a great way to get a discount on some of your craft supplies. And if you want to, you can even work it as a business and make some money from it. So All right, friends, we have some greetings prepared. We have all of these 12 card bases prepared, and we are just going to start adding some greetings in here. So here we have thank you with the lovely Blackberry Bliss card base. I am not going to be very choosy about which one I put on here. I am just going to grab one and go. Now I'll bring in, I told you I had some ribbon. So here's a few pieces of ribbon that I will add to several of these. I wanted to mention this because I didn't have any crumb cake ribbon in my collection, and that was the color that I wanted. So here is a really handy tip. Is if you have alcohol markers, these blends alcohol markers in our colors. I love, love, love. I was talking about how great our products are. I love the color coordination of our products, okay? So this crumb cake, the color carries through in my inks, my cardstock, my embellishments, everything, the alcohol markers. So I just took this beige ribbon and I colored it gently with my crumb cake alcohol marker, and now I have ribbon that matches. So I will use that on a few of these. Let's use that on this one. So I will switch up where I'm putting some of my greetings, even though my tendency on cards is always to put them like at one of the bottom corners, but we'll switch it up. We'll try not to get boring here. So I put a little bit of adhesive there, and I'm just gonna wrap this ribbon. This is something I do a lot of times for really simple cards. If I want, I'm looking for a cherry cobbler one. Here we go. So just put that little bit of ribbon right there, put the greeting over top. It's really quick and easy. And we can put some in the middle. I don't know why I shy away from doing things in the middle, but that looks nice, right? Now let's pull in some of these that we have with the stamped backgrounds. And I wouldn't have to, but I am trying to keep these greetings, the ink to match the color of the card base in the background. So there's that one. Let's do this one, and then maybe I'll add a piece of ribbon to that next one. Now, if you ever have places that don't stamp very well and you don't really want to draw attention to it, you can cover those up, cover it up with your greeting. You can cover it up with embellishments if you want. Here's one. This is something I like to do a lot of times, is put that ribbon sideways. So we'll fold it, we'll put it sideways, and I feel like I'm playing a game of memory, flipping over my pieces and then not remembering which colors they were. It's been a little while since I played the game of memory. So here's this one. Here is a Blackberry Bliss. And then we are left with our 4 that have these die cut leaves on them. So let's finish them up. Put another one with a piece of ribbon here. There's so many different ways to use your ribbon. I have shared some videos in the past of some different ideas. Sometimes we get stuck thinking that tying bows is the only way to use ribbon, but it absolutely is not. Actually, straight strips like this is a great way. Let's do one like that. And I think I'll do it up here where we have a little bit more open space. So just put a strip down, and then you can attach a greeting either right on top, or I'm going to layer that so that you see more of that ribbon below the greeting. 2 left, 2 left. You are amazing in every single way, and thank you. Now I did grab some sequins to add a little bit more embellishment to some of these if I want to. So let's just put sequins on a few of these and then I can finish them up afterwards. But I want you to see the finished look of a couple of these with all of their embellishments. So hopefully this gives you some good ideas, some good tips for how to make multiples of card projects. The holiday season is coming when many of us are making a lot of cards to send out around Christmas. So hopefully some of these tips can help you save some time, make some beautiful cards to bring joy to other people. And let's put some on one of the ones with the embossing. I'm curious if you have a hard time. I know sometimes this sounds really funny, but sometimes I used to struggle with like where to put my embellishments on. I'm curious if that is something you struggle with or not, if you just stick them on and go. But here, let's take a up close look at 3 of these cards. This is the one we embossed and added the ink over top with the blending brush. Here, one of these beautiful ones with the stamped leaves with all of that beautiful detail in those leaves. And here is one with some of those die cut and embossed leaves. All right, friends, let's flip the camera around and we'll chat for a couple of minutes. So am I the only one today that finds it really hard to decide what to believe in this world? It's become clear to me over the last probably 4 years how much misinformation there is in this world. And actually, I'm starting to believe that most of the messages that we receive on a daily basis, like a large proportion of those, I don't think are true. This has become clear to me about our health, our wellness, nutrition, and I don't know, probably politics and all of the happenings of our world too. I don't fill my mind with a lot of this. I choose not to listen to a lot of it because, I don't know, just because. Somebody actually said to me a few years ago that it's all a distraction. It's all a distraction from what's really going on. And I think I agree with that. But thinking about what we believe in this world, I wanted to talk about something I did over the summer, and I had the chance to go for the second time to what's called the Ark Encounter in northern Kentucky. So what it is a life-size replica of Noah's Ark, what Noah's Ark is believed to have been. So when we're looking at what to believe in this world, if you watch my videos, you are probably aware that I am a Christian and I believe that Jesus Christ lived on this earth to die for my sins. So, but when I say this out loud and when I think about it, like, does it make sense? Does it make sense to me? Is it easy to believe? It's not. It doesn't make any sense to me, actually. It doesn't make sense. Does it make sense to me that there is a God that created this world? It doesn't make sense to me. But as I've traveled through my life, had different experiences, thought through all of these things, it makes more sense to me than anything else I can come up with. And so as we were at the Ark Encounter over the summer, I really now that I've been there twice, I'm going to remember this for the next time I go back, is I want to fast forward to the 3rd floor, the 3rd deck of the Ark, where a lot of the displays are that really interest me, which are things kind of like, so science has taught us, natural selection and evolution and all of these things. So the displays on the 3rd floor have to do with science and the history of the world according to the Bible and why some of the science doesn't make sense. Something that, who knows, this may be a different topic for a different day, but I feel like there's commercials on TV about believing the science. Like, I feel like we're almost being told that we have to bow down and worship the science. And am I wrong in the fact that throughout the history of time, science changes. So while some of it's right, there's a lot of it that's wrong because we don't know all of it, right? Like we used to believe the earth was flat and all kinds of other things, right? So now I'm getting distracted. But okay, so it talks about like how this is what science teaches us and shows some things that reasons why science, the explanation of science may not fully make sense. So just a few quick things that I thought I would share about how what we've been taught about science and the history of the earth, why they don't quite make sense. And I am not a scientist, okay? I'm this smart. There's a lot I don't understand. But one thing, so anyway, if any of this doesn't make sense and you're like sciencey and a lot smarter than me, I'm sorry. But one of the things, so the Earth's magnetic field, something about like over time, the magnetic field changes and I think it affects gravity. But according to the magnetic field and the rate at which the magnetic field is changing, I believe the number is that they don't believe the Earth can be any older than 20,000 years, okay? So we've been taught that it's millions of years old, right? Like it's been millions of years ago since the dinosaurs were here and all of these things. But according to this magnetic field theory, it cannot be nearly that old. There are some... I really get interested in this. Like there's all these things throughout history. Like is the Bible hard to believe? There's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't make sense, right? Like miracles. Like we can't understand that because we can't see it with our eyes. But when we do experience miracles in real life and we realize, wow, those things can happen, even if they don't make sense sometimes. So the magnetic field is one of the things that I find interesting. This is one my husband has some people he watches like shorts and videos of that explain some of these things. I know there's some of this stuff out there on the different video sites, but one of them, okay, so the rock layers, the history of the rock layers. We're taught that like this rock layer formed this many million years ago, and then this rock layer formed next. Like you can see the differences in those rock layers, right? Well, there's photos of things like a petrified tree or a fossilized tree that goes down through like all these different layers. So according to the theories of the deposits of all the sediment in these rock layers, there couldn't be something that just happens to go through a whole bunch of them, right? That doesn't make sense according to what we've been taught. So here's this petrified tree that goes through all these different rock layers, which would lead one to believe that all of that happened at one time, right? And there's something about like, because of decomposition of materials, like for things to be fossilized, I think that has to happen quickly. But anyway, so there's photos of a giant tree going through a bunch of rock layers. What else? This is something I don't know if we think about very, very often, but some of the times when I just feel like there has to be a God, someone had to have created this, is when I look at the detail and the interconnections in our world, in plants and animals and insects and all the things. Like, how can this all work together? And sometimes when I think I was reading some kind of book about health and wellness or health problems or something, and I'm reading about the inner workings of the cells in our body, and it is just unbelievable, the detail and the order of all of this. One of the videos we had watched while we were at the Ark Encounter, the man speaking, he talked about, well, he'd been outside and he laid 6 leaves in a straight line outside, and his wife went out and saw them, and she asked something like, why did you lay the leaves like that? And he says, well, how did you know that I did that? She says, because they're in a straight line, because there's order to them. Well, you look at the order in this world, like the stars in the sky and the pictures they create and things. The more, anyway, I've listened to some books about these. I forget what they're called. There's a case for Christ and a case for heaven, and that series of books. I think there's one of them about some of this stuff. And basically, the man who wrote those books was trying to prove Christianity wrong, and in the process of trying to prove it wrong, he became a Christian. But anyway, it's so hard to know what to believe in this world. And I know many of you who watch are strong believers. There's going to come a day where this matters. Like, it's easy to go through our lives and be busy and not think about it and not deal with what we believe to be true and what we believe is going to happen when our day comes, when we part ways with this earth. But if it's something you haven't wrestled with and come up with your personal belief, I really encourage you, friends, to do that today, to do that soon. To do that, because at some point we run out of time for that. But what do we believe in this world? We all have to make our own decisions on this. And I feel like it's probably becoming harder and harder to know what to believe because of all of these messages being sent our way all the time. Friends, my thoughts are with you. I pray for those of you who watch me, even though I will never have the chance to meet a lot of you, but I appreciate you. I hope you are well, and I hope you be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.